Well, during an online summit on race, Laura, Joe Biden was joined by actor Don Cheadle. And at one point, the former VP attempted to demonstrate how advanced he is on race relations. And he offered this penetrating insight. Watch Don Cheadle's face.
In my household, you could never, ever say, you get in a fight with somebody, you could never say anything about them. It was true. If they were 300 pounds, you couldn't say you're fat. You could never say anything that they had nothing to do with having to have put upon themselves.
Laura, it is this kind of rambling syntax. This is part of the reason that the new Rasmussen Daily Tracking Poll has Donald Trump at 25% strong approval among black Americans. 25%.
Wow.
Biden just, he repeatedly gave those taking to the streets this week some advice. He thought this might help them in their protests, and he kept checking the notes.
The act of protesting should never be allowed to overshadow the reason for the protest. The act of protesting should never be allowed to overshadow the reason for the protest in the first place. We can't allow the protesting to overshadow the purpose of the protest.
Oh my God! Wait, hold on, Raymond. It looked like they were visiting him through the glass, and he's being sheltering in place, and they're like, "Oh, thank you. Oh, isn't that sweet?" Like that was
the
unbelievable.
Laura, that repetition. If you say it slower, it makes more sense. It doesn't. But at a time when we have such challenges abroad and at home, the Biden campaign has a steep curve here to try to convince Americans that this man, who seems to have his finger on the life alert button at every moment, that he's ready to run the country. Laura, perhaps the most revealing and maybe the most painful Biden bite of the week was this one that got no attention.
To everyone who is struggling with their mental health, you're not alone. There's no shame in seeking help.
Laura, it's getting tragic at this point.